we are going to talk today about navigating a virtual career expo. With me today is Jay Glessner. She is another one of our peer educators. She is fantastic, and we're going to walk you through how to prepare for a virtual career expo and just kind of in general what you can expect both from the virtual version and the in-person version once they start happening again. Maybe my slides will change. There we go. All right, so what we're going to go over is kind of like what do you do before? How do you go through registration? What should you prepare ahead of time to make sure that you're all up to date? We're also going to talk about what you should be thinking about during the expo, what you should wear, how you should set up your environment for video sharing, and how you can participate during the sessions. And then we'll also talk a little bit about what to do after. So once you're out of your sessions, the career fair is over, what do you do next? So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jay to talk about registration.
Alrighty, so when you go in Handshake and you're looking to register and you're looking for the career fairs, you're going to register for them in Handshake, like we just said. And you'll be able to see a lot of the employers that are going to be there, which might help gauge your interest on whether or not you want to go to that particular career fair. It can help give you a good idea. And a lot of times the career fairs will be labeled kind of by industry, like there will be like ECS internship fairs and all of that jazz. And you'll also be able to choose what sessions you're going to go to during the fair. And so there's group sessions, which are going to be a lot more informational, and you'll have multiple attendees in there with you, and you'll just kind of be getting more information from the recruiter. And then there's one-on-one sessions, which are going to be about 10 minutes, like Jason said that he went to, and it'll just be you and a representative of the company, and it'll be a lot more like an interview, a lot more of a chance for you to communicate back and forth with them.
Yeah, there's definitely a nice back and forth in the 10-minute sessions. Again, very rapid fire since it's just a short 10-minute kind of interview, which differs from the group sessions, which is a lot more like one of these presentations where it's a presenter talking to a group, typically a group of attendees.
And so again, as you're signing up, you'll be able to see the employers. And it's important to note that recruiters and companies will keep adding available sessions to sign up for, like really right until the final hour. So when you initially register, there might not be sessions for all the companies that you're interested in. So just keep checking back in, even the morning of, and see if there's anything available that you want to sign up for. And you'll want to kind of make a list in an organization and figure out what you're doing. That's not very specific at all, but just kind of keep track of your agenda and knowing where you're going from point A to point B. And so even beyond the information that's on Handshake, you should check out the company's webpage themselves, find them on LinkedIn, really kind of get a feel for what that company is doing, especially if it's one that you haven't heard of before. And even big companies like Amazon that have so many moving parts and so many things happening, it can be really great to figure out more specifically what they're looking for before you go into an event where they're going to be looking for that from you.
Yeah, and like Jay said, they're adding available sessions right up until the deadline, which makes it really important to have a research plan in place. So you might sign up for a session and have an hour to prep for it. Right. So you want to kind of know what you need to do so you can do it quickly, if that makes sense.
Yeah, kind of have your checklist to go through when you're looking at a company of what information do you want to have and how are you going to find it.
And like some of the things you want to look for is you will in Handshake. One great thing about that is it will show you an organized list of what sessions you're signed up for and when they are. So you have a nice ordered list of those. But also it will show you the presenter's name. So you can go ahead and look that person up, whether it's looking them up on Handshake or looking them up through LinkedIn. So you get a kind of idea of who you're going to be talking to before the meeting. I know that definitely helped me a lot in my one-on-one interview or one-on-one session last week. So it's definitely worth looking into who the individual you're going to be talking to is.
Yes, and looking them up can also help you figure out what questions you want to ask them. If you know what they do at the company, it can help you figure out what kind of questions you're going to ask them when they ask you if you have any questions. It's always good to have one. So also with your research, like we said, in Handshake, you can even see the particular job that they might be hiring for, which will help, again, you figure out your research and your questions that you want to ask. And so as you're preparing your questions, you want to make sure that what you're asking them is pretty specific, because that's going to show that you've done your research, and it's going to show that you're interested and that you have gotten to a point where you're knowledgeable enough about the job and the company that you have a particular thing that you want to ask about. And so, along with preparing questions that you want to ask, is you want to prepare the basic questions that they're going to ask you. So the basic, tell me about yourself. That's always a fun one to answer, and they always ask it. And so one great resource for that is Interview Stream, which is a service we offer at the Career Center, where you can go online and practice interviewing. You can see yourself on camera, you can hear your answers, and you can do that at an entirely self-directed pace, anytime, anywhere. So that's really great for prepping your answers to common questions and kind of getting a feel of what questions might be asked.
Yeah, and if you've never used Interview Stream, I just dropped a link into the chat so you can find it easily. That is a free resource that we offer through the University of Texas at Dallas Career Center. I'm also going to just drop a link to our resources page in case you haven't had a chance to look through that and explore what we can do to help you. So I'm going to drop that in the link real quick. And then, yeah, lastly, just to kind of reiterate, it's really important to be organized so you can structure your research very quickly and efficiently. And then also, so when you're in your session, you have all the information that you want, all that hard work you did prepping your research and prepping these questions, you have all that available to you really easy and accessible.
Yep, and so then in whatever document you use to organize that information, that's also a great place to jot down notes as you're in your sessions. And so then you got it all in one place. You got the company, you've got the recruiter's name, you've got your notes from there, you've got questions you want to ask them. It can all be in one chart.
Exactly.
So before you go to your sessions, you also want to make sure that your resume is up to date. And this is one particular thing that I really like, is to make sure that the file name of your resume is not just like resume1.docs. Probably your last name, maybe the year would be a great file name, because in Handshake, the file name shows up when you have your resume. And so just small stuff like that can really add to how you come across to a recruiter. Make sure that your resume and your Handshake profile is up to date with your latest accomplishments. We have a bunch of services to help you make sure those things are extra spiffy. We've got the resume inbox where you can email it in, and we'll email it back to you with some edits and some resources. We have drop-in appointments, we have advising appointments, and there's a whole bunch of resources online about your Handshake profile and making sure that that's all set up, and even more resources about LinkedIn and making sure that your LinkedIn looks good.
Yeah, and just like with Interview Stream, I just dropped a link to not a link, but the URL address, the email address for that resume inbox that Jay mentioned.
Jason has got the links.
So we talked about what to do before. What should you do once you get there? All right. So first things first is you're going to be on camera. They're going to be able to see you. So think about what you're wearing. You want to make sure that whatever it is really puts you forth as a professional. So you want to kind of, ditch the sweatpants, ditch the t-shirt, put on your favorite polished outfit, whether that's a nice blouse or a shirt with a collar. Ties and coats, they're kind of optional, but, professionalism, however you want to present yourself, think about what your professional brand is and what a professional looks like at their company. That's the best way to think about kind of what to wear. You're also going to want to make sure that it looks good on video. There are some patterns and textures and color combos that are really, really nice, but on camera, they don't really work. I had a nice button-up shirt, like a white with a blue floral print on it, that I was going to wear underneath a blazer, and it does not look good on camera. It's too finely detailed, and it's almost like static when it's going through a webcam. So you want to make sure you're not overly busy with your clothing, and just make sure that it looks good on your camera. So all of this is going to help you make a great first impression. And also just dressing up nice is going to help boost your confidence during the presentation. So even if they can't really see what you're wearing, for example, I'm wearing nice pants right now. I'm not wearing sweatpants. I'm not wearing shorts. I actually got dressed up all the way. because it makes me feel more confident. It makes me feel more professional. So I put off that vibe when I'm presenting. So when you look good, you feel good. Think about that.
And like Jason kind of said, whatever dressing up means will kind of depend on what companies you're talking to, what industry you're in. I mean, if you're going into business and finance, that is a notoriously more formal field than if you're going into engineering and tech.
Correct. And that's actually just a good thing to learn, period, because that will follow you into the job interviews and also what kind of expectation is for attire in the job once you get it.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing you want to think about while you're at the meeting is what your environment is. You want to make sure you test out your audio and your video beforehand. A good way to do that, I know everyone here has Teams, so you actually go into the calendar on Teams and just click Meet Now, and that will let you test out your microphone and audio. I believe Handshake also has a tool to make sure that your microphone and camera are working beforehand. And while you're making sure that your camera works and your microphone works, also check out your lighting. Lighting is very, very important to video. And one really easy thing to do is just make sure that the brightest light is in front of you and not behind you. That's going to light up your face and make sure you're not just this kind of weird, awkward shadow where they can't really make out any of your features. And the last part of that is going to be kind of your background, kind of minimizing your distractions. And that can be audible distractions, such as noises. Maybe if you have roommates, ask them, hey, I'm going to be in a meeting. Please keep it down. Or if you have pets, maybe you have to put your dog outside to make sure they don't bark during the meeting. And this is also true for your background. You want to make sure it's not overly busy or overly messy. You don't want to see a unmade bed in the background of your interviewee video. And a good way to do that is just pick a nice neutral background, whether that is a basic background, like a blurred out thing, or just a flat wall. For example, my bed's right behind me and it's not made, and you can't tell that if I hadn't said that. So it's a good trick to know.
In addition to Meet Now, to test out your audio, it could also be helpful to do just a quick Microsoft Teams meeting with one of your friends. Make sure that they can hear you, that you can hear them, and that you aren't coming across super loud or that your audio quality isn't all funky.
That is an excellent tip. Thank you for that, Jay.
You are welcome.
All right, so you got your clothes, you got your background. Now you're actually in the meeting. You prepared all of those questions. What are you going to do with them? Make sure that you are participating in your meeting. This is a little bit easier when it's a one-on-one session because you're expected to be having a conversation with this person. But it's also kind of a good thing to do if you're in a group session. We do have, before I get too far ahead of myself, we have a tip from Cher in the chat. One dress code tip: if the organization in charge of hosting the career fair provides a dress code, read them through carefully and make sure you follow them strictly. That is true. There are certain expos that will have a dress code. And if there is a dress code that is given, make sure you follow that. All right. So kind of when you're in the actual session, how do you participate? One thing is to prepare questions like Jay talked about during the research section. And then when you're there, make sure that you can take notes. Like Jay said, it's a good idea to use your spreadsheet from your research to take notes, whether that's typing. That way you have your notes in the same place as you had your original research. If you're like me and you really like writing things down on paper, it's fine too. Just make sure that you type them up afterwards and add them back so everything's together. Kind of keep yourself organized. And make sure, like we talked about with Interview Stream, prepare answers, especially for the tell me about yourself question. If you've never written an elevator pitch before, it's a very, very useful tool that can help you answer this question really easily. And we actually did a presentation on this last week. So I have a handy dandy little handout for writing an elevator pitch that I will share in the chat real quick. And that'll make writing an elevator pitch really easy just by answering a couple questions about yourself. So it's not a template, it is a series of questions that you put together Yeah, a prompt. That's a much easier way of putting it than what I was saying.
And one more thing is that in group sessions, they'll usually let you know how they want you to ask questions, if they want you to raise your hand in the chat or send a message in the chat. How they will facilitate asking questions, or there might be just a Q&A session at the end, and they want you to save all your questions until then.
Yes, it's very important that you ask your questions at the right time. You don't want to be interrupting them. You don't want to be disturbing the room. So if they're taking questions in the chat, you can kind of enter them organically as things come up. Otherwise, it's best to kind of save your questions to the end. Almost every group session will have a Q&A session for the last like 5 or 10 minutes of the block. All right, let's go to our next slide. We're talking about after.
Alrighty, you have made it, you've done it, you've done the sessions, you've got the info. And so afterwards, you want to collect up your notes. If you're anything like me, I take very messy, illegible notes, and if I don't start transcribing them soon after the occasion, I will quickly forget what it all says and means. And so organizing your notes pretty soon after will help you stay organized and keep everything together. And then you'll want to follow up with the recruiters you talk to, with the companies you talk to, especially since you'll know the recruiter's name. It's a great time to connect with them on Handshake. But you can also just connect with the company. You can talk to other students you met. Really just utilize the people that you met on that day and figure out how to connect with them and grow your network.
Yeah, and I can't stress what Jay said enough. Again, just kind of anecdotally, I had a one-on-one session at a virtual career fair last week. We followed up on LinkedIn with my recruiter, and she sent me a job application. I think on Monday, and yeah, yesterday. After filling it out, I have a secondary follow-up from that application. So it's really, really helpful to participate in these one-on-one sessions to make a good first impression. But all of that doesn't matter if you don't follow up. All right, so kind of final tips, just remember to be courteous and be professional. Try not to monopolize anyone's time. Remember, especially if you're in a group session, that you're not the only one in that meeting. And then if you're in a one-on-one session, remember that's like a 10-minute slot. Everything's pretty tight and fast. So they want to hear about you, but you also want to hear about them. So make sure you don't want to fill up the entire time with just you talking. And keep your space and your notes organized, whether that is your desk, keeping it clear of visual distractions for you, or keeping it clear of anything that might make any noise, and keeping that Excel sheet ready to have all of your research and all of your notes in one place. And then just try to create a personal connection. Really remember that even though it's virtual, there's still people on both sides of the screen. You're a person, they're a person, we're all people. So establishing that nice personal connection is very crucial to humanize you as not just an applicant on a screen, but as a fellow human being. And then just relax. It's okay. Take a deep breath and know that you're going to do great, because now you have completed our power hour. So you know everything you need to know to be awesome at your next virtual career fair. Thank you all for attending. We really appreciate your time and coming out here. We're going to open the floor up to questions for the remainder of the period. But before I do that, I just want to remind you that you can email us any questions at careercenter@utdallas.edu. And also, Jay has a survey for us. Just a quick little short answer survey. I think it takes about 5 minutes, just kind of giving us feedback on your experience at this meeting today. And with that, I will turn the floor over to y'all for questions.